All right, Mr. Wayne, let's go ahead. Let's get this started. We've been sitting here probably about 5 minutes now, and we were thinking about how it's already Wednesday. Wednesday, what day exactly? It's March 26th, 2025. It was 6:07 p.m. right now. And a lot of great things have happened this past week. We went through whatever phase we went through in these last 2 months with work. I know I was explaining how we hadn't had 2 consecutive days off in the last 2 months, which is good, right? Because it made me feel like I was in an acceleration phase when it came to being promoted, moving forward. I'm taking on more responsibility with my work. And, throughout these past 2 months, we've also been doing our workouts and our meditations. So it was a very interesting process, I'll tell you that. A lot of work, and which is good, right? We need work. We need to have something we're working towards. We need to wake up with a goal in mind so we live our life with purpose, knowing that, hey, we're waking up to get something done or to do something. Because there's no other way to live life, right? I know what it's like to wake up and not have any goals, not have any, I don't want to use the word responsibility, because even when we had a responsibility, we weren't always responsible, right? Mainly for my younger years and all the mistakes I've made in the past and all the opportunities that I've had that I squandered or threw away because I didn't know what I had. Today is different. Today is very different, and by the grace of God, thankfully, we were able to have these last 3 days off. Right, we've been off since Monday. We're still getting our workouts in, still doing our meditations and things and whatnot. But when it came from work, because we're men of service, right? We have to provide service. We have to be there for our society. That's how we get rewarded in earning our own living, by being of service to others. That's how we earn our spot, so to speak, in this world. And I've actually had the time to reflect, spend some time in nature, bathe in the sun. That was very nice. Very, very nice. And just actually being able to take a step back and not have to really think about anything and just be in recharge. And we feel good. We feel calm. We feel, I was sharing this in a comment on my week 8 video. Thank you for the compliment, by the way. I was sharing a comment how much I feel different, especially since I started this program. And the real master key, it's like he tells us in the beginning, it's in our mental attitude, right? Mental attitude is the key. But he says it's our habitual mental attitude. It's the things that we think about most of the time. Because we know our thoughts, our mental images, what we create in our imagination, these are the seeds of our behaviors. And we need, the key, essentially, what Mr. Hanel gives us is not only information about what consciousness is and how consciousness works, but he gives us practical skills too to conscientiously utilize the power of consciousness to work in our lives for our benefit. Because with our thoughts, with our mental pictures, and through understanding of the psychological laws of man, woman, humanity in general. And these natural natural universal laws. I wanted to mix universal and laws into one word right there. These natural laws, right? These laws work, and they're working no matter what. No matter what, they're in play. And they work in congruence with our thinking. Because it's the nature of consciousness to embody that which it thinks. In our subconscious mental habits, you can say, the things that we think about most of the time, these are our behavioral patterns, and our behavioral patterns are what dictate our actions, and our actions are obviously what express themselves in the external world. And it all leads back to thought, and thought being the seed of everything that you want in life, because it's like he said in the beginning, we have to be something before we can have something. Right? If you want to make $1 million, nothing wrong with money. Money is a great thing. It's a fantastic thing. It's a tool. Remember, you can use it to fight for causes. It's, like it said, it's the heart that wields the money, which makes it what it is. You're either going to use it for good, or you're going to use it for selfish purposes. But the money itself, it is what it is. It's energy, it's vibration, it just is what it is. Its real dependence is upon the person who's holding it. But back to, if you want to make $1 million, you have to first be a millionaire internally, in your attitude first. Then the manifestation of that million will follow, because what do we know? The law of success is what? It's service. And we know with our capitalistic system, in the way our society is built, we can provide a service that is needed, that is in demand, and bring it to society. And society will give you money in exchange for your product or service. It's that simple. Like it's that simple. And a lot of it obviously is dependent upon how much you've grown personally as an individual, and your ability to bring that product and service to the highest quality that you're capable of bringing it to your society, right? Because you could sell one thing, somebody else could be selling the exact same thing, but the real difference is the person who is selling it, which would be you, right? So really, that leads back to your personal development and your personal growth. Same thing, he called it wealth consciousness. Mr. Hanel calls it wealth consciousness. And, well, it's the money consciousness. And Napoleon Hill says the exact same thing, right? You have to develop the money consciousness. And what are the tools that they give us? They give us all the tools of the mind. They teach imagination. They teach these universal law of attraction, law of vibration, the power of thought, the psychological law of man. They teach these things because these are the fundamental basis of what we're going to use to achieve the things that we want. Because going through the Master Key system, like I feel very different since I've started it. And I made a lot of progress, especially with work. I was actually talking with a buddy of mine, because no matter where you go, especially if you're in an established organization, it's their establishment, right? They have their politics, so to speak, and for the most part, people are chosen. When it comes to, hey, we have open position coming up, I think you'll be a great fit. Are you interested? Right? Like, people are chosen for these things. Me, on the other hand, I wasn't exactly chosen. Now, there are a lot of reasons to that, right? When I initially started working at Walmart, I was trying to get back into trucking. Now, trucking isn't completely gone for me, but due to my preventative accident, I'm on kind of a probation period, but I do have an opportunity to drive with Walmart in a couple years. Now I know in a couple years, once that opportunity comes about, I'm going to be in a different position with Walmart anyway. But initially, I didn't plan on going anywhere with them, right? Just, okay, I'm here, I'll do what I need to do, bring some money in at home, I can take care of myself until I find another opportunity for trucking, right? But throughout the year of being there and understanding exactly what I did have, now I want to do something with it. Now we're pushing to go somewhere with it. And, you know, the past was the past, and that was last year, and I'm not that same person anymore, especially coming out here from where I was and going through the phases of leaving one huge chapter of my life behind to start a whole nother chapter, which it wasn't exactly what I wanted to do, right? I was kind of forced to do that. Now, I know I explained it in another video. I'll touch up on it again right now, where I risked almost everything I had to get my CDL and drive because I was over the road. I lived in my fifth wheel at the time. I had my 2 babies, my cats, and my dog, my 3rd baby. And, you know, when I lost the opportunity, I wasn't making any money. I do still have my trailer, but it's up somewhere else with my family. And, you know, I came out here where I am now. My brother lived out here. I live with him. And getting back on my feet and fixing my life from risks I've taken and mistakes I've made. Right? There are consequences with everything that we do. And whether we succeed or fail is obviously going to determine how far those consequences go. But, you know, and go back to what I was saying, I wasn't exactly chosen for a promotional position, right? I pushed my way up to the front. Something I was just talking with my buddy about. I pushed my way up to the front and I made it known that, hey, I want to go somewhere with this. And I know last week I was going to share with you my experience going to Sunnyside. It's a small state in Washington. We currently live in Washington. I'm not going to say exactly where, but as of right now, we're in the state of Washington. And who knows how long we'll be out here. But anyway, we went to a city, a town, and we went to go see the store lead, Adina, of the Walmart Supercenter out there. And when I got there, it was probably around 12. She said she wasn't currently available to come back later, so I said, okay. Went out, seen Sunnyside, did my thing, came back 3:30, and she was available. She came up and we talked. We talked probably about 5-10 minutes, and, you know, I asked her to mentor me if she was willing to be a mentor, and she said yes. Now, I know, like I did tell Blanca, that I will tell her the results of our conversation. When I told Blanca, you know, her and Blanca are very good friends. Blanca's our store lead. And it is very interesting too, because Blanca's actually in training for ultra marathon running, right? She trains, she works out. I train, I work out. And then Adina used to be a physical therapist. Now, parts of my training when I was a personal trainer, right, I was NASM certified. Now, I do want to get my certification again. It is on the list. Now, a big mistake I made with that was letting that certification go. You know, I was 21 when I got NASM certified. I qualified for valedictorian. They gave it to some woman in nursing, but that's a whole nother story, right? We did have the best results out of all of our classmates, and, you know, we did very, very well, and we did that while also holding a full-time job and still making time for training and cooking our own meals. It was very, very hard during that time. It was very hard. And then it was an eight-month program too that I went through to get certified. But for my training, right, it was mainly, human anatomy, general exercises, things like that and whatnot. But Adina, she was a physical therapist in the past, right? And long story short, like, when it comes to what I find of value, there are these two store leads, my store lead, another store lead, that I share similar, that not only do I share values with, but like we have very similar ways of thinking. We share a very similar mindset. Now I know these ladies have a lot more experience than I do, not just in life. I'm not saying they're way, way older than me, but they're older than me. Well, they've been with Walmart for many, many years, right? There are years of a Walmart mindset, retail mindset to learn from. And Adina said yes, and said she was going to talk to Blanca. I told Blanca, and Blanca said she was going to reach out to Adina and see what we could work out, because Adina does work in a completely different store. And, right now it's like, what? During this phase, I did a tremendous amount to get to the front of that line and to make known what I want. And I pushed and I pushed and I worked. And now it's like, okay, I'm on the radar screen. I did all these things that were absolutely needed. But now it's like, okay, they know what I want. I just need to master my department now. And I did get lead expectations papers from my immediate coach, which is the manager of our area, our department, and she's the position above lead, right? There's team lead, which is what I'm striving for, shooting for. There's coach after that. Then there's store lead, and then manager, store manager. Right? Like, all these things happen within these last 2 months, and reflecting on it today and where I am now and then here, and my aspirations for New Thought Society. And New Thought Society I know will take a while to build. But right now I just got to keep building me. And we're already on part 9, right? Like, the time is it's just going by. It's just going by, and we just have to keep going along with it. And whatever we choose to do from moment to moment, we have to make sure that it's for our benefit. Doesn't mean that we can't enjoy ourselves every once in a while, throw on some TV, whatever, see what's out there, throw on some entertainment. I love music. But for the most part, it's like they say, getting your top priorities done. The top priorities always need to get done first, and the smaller ones are done after. So all that being said, let's go ahead. Let's get started with part 9 of Master Key System. I'm almost halfway done through this program. At the end of part 12, it'll be the end of our 3rd month, and we'll be starting our 4th. We're about 42% through the program already. Dang. Alright, so introduction, part 9. In this part, you may learn to fashion the tools by which you may build for yourself any condition you desire. Excuse me, sorry. What a way to start the part. It's like that was waiting for when I got started. If you wish to change conditions, you must change yourself. Your whims, your wishes, your fancies, your ambitions may be thwarted at every step, but your inmost thoughts will find expression just as certainly as a plant springs from the seed. No, that's very interesting that we read that part, because I was just talking with a brother of mine about how people's behavior towards me has been changing at work, right? Even they know what I want. They see the progress that I've been making, and it's changing the way they act towards me. And during my meditation earlier, because we did do our final 30 minutes about an hour ago before we started this part with part 8. And during that meditation, I was thinking, like, look, it doesn't matter what I'm getting from the outside, right? They do not dictate my actions. They cannot dictate where it is that I want to go. Now, that was bringing up that point with the politics and things and whatnot of the store, and how they're picky and choosy, and how I chose myself for it. Because, like I said, I pushed my way up to the front. I didn't wait for anybody, and I'm not waiting for anybody in order for me to move forward. And I was thinking too, how many people, employees, actually drive out to another store that's an hour away from their store and asks another store lead if they're willing to train them? How often does it happen? I'm more than positive that doesn't happen much. And I'm the guy doing that, right? And thing with Adina and me doing that, I didn't just do that just to do that, right? Remember the conversation that I shared that I had with her when I met all the store leads from the entire area of Washington, and she showed the most interest in me, and she was asking me the most questions. And she asked me if I needed anything, just to let her know. Right, Adina said that. Now, I really took that to heart, because I tell my customers that, my clients that, after I finish helping them, hey, if you need anything else, just let me know. Or even before I help them, do you need anything, sir, miss, brother? Do you need anything? If they say no, it's okay. If you do, just let me know, right? If they say yes, I help them right there. I end it as, if you need anything else, just let me know. She did that with me, and that's what really, and I told her, I did tell her, I said, you may just find me in your store very soon. So it's not like I just went out there just to ask some random person, right? There was there was an establishment which led to me doing that, right? There was a cause, and that cause created the effect of me going out there, seizing an opportunity that presented itself to help me move up. Because she did tell me that, we'll see exactly how far that I want to go, right, with Walmart. We'll see how far I want to go. And she ended our conversation with that when I seen her on Sunnyside. And, but I bring that up because I'm not waiting for somebody to say, okay, Wayne, are you ready? No, I'm going out there to get it. Especially in business, you have to go out there and get it yourself. And you can't wait for anyone. And anyone who's doing this, right, you just go. Because like it said, people don't talk badly about the ones people don't talk badly about the ones they're doing better than, right? They talk badly about the ones that they perceive to be doing better than them, or at least doing something different than them. Some of my cousin told me that people tend to criticize that which they don't understand. And it's truer than true. And they don't, unfortunately, it's like, hey, at least be open-minded enough not to jump to conclusions, right? And to really try to understand the cause behind the effect, the reason why something is happening or turned out to be some way. But anyway, I bring that up because during my meditation, I was saying, I can't let whatever's going on now interfere with how I feel, how I think, right? Like, I have to stay on track with where I am going. And that's through visualization. That's through using the imagination to create the image of me being and doing what I want to be and do, and to hold on to that image regardless of what's going on around us. Because the moment I start to look at that, right, we think about, I'll start to become the thoughts of somebody else. And we're not that, right? We're our own person, we're our own individual. And that's what I love about this system too, because Handel's going straight to the reasons why we are the way we are, right? And through understanding why we are the way we are and giving us a conscientious, or at least the tools to shape ourselves to be who we want to be. This is all this program is, and it's what it's doing for us. That's why I love this. So let's continue. Suppose, then, we desire to change conditions. How are we to bring this about? The reply is simple: by the law of growth. Cause and effect are as absolute and undeviating in the hidden realm of thought as in the world of material things. Hold in mind the condition desired. Affirm it as an already existing fact. This indicates the value of a powerful affirmation. By constant repetition, it becomes a part of ourselves. We are actually changing ourselves. We are making ourselves what we want to be. Now, remember what he told us in week 6, part 6, that the brain, the human brain, literally changes its structure, molds itself with new neural connections in accordance with our new ways of thinking. Which is amazing, like thinking about it, because he says it's the most wonderful piece of mechanism that the universe ever created, because it is the very mechanism which allows the power of mind, the power of spirit, to express itself in form. Remember the example he gave us, with the electricity. Electricity, we know, is a power. It's a natural universal force. Through our understanding of the force of electricity is what's given us the ability to use it for our advantage. And on top of that, we've been able to create different types of devices. Now, I know the example I used was between a fan and I believe a heater. All right, both these mechanisms are running off the same power, which is electricity. But due to what the mechanism is, one is a fan. So the electricity will power the fan to blow cool air, or at least to cool the air to a degree. As compared to a heater, that heater was created and designed to create heat, still being powered by electricity like the fan is, but the fact that they both have very different designs, which causes a different effect. That's what the brain is, right? The brain is a mechanism created to express the power of thought, because thought is an intangible force. Remember, he's telling us it's a spiritual force. It comes from our center of I am. It comes from our center of awareness, of consciousness. And the degree that our thought is going to be able to manifest in form is dependent upon the mechanism that is attached to it, which is the brain. Right? The brain and spinal cord, which gives us voluntary movements and voluntary functions. And since our brain is the organ of which the conscious mind is expressing itself through, every thought you think, every mental image you have, everything that's happening in this intangible area, your awareness, it's manifesting through the brain, right? There have been many scientific experiments of this. You take one group, you have these two groups of people, they're both, let's say they're both playing a piano, right? We'll use that as an example. Now, I don't remember the example was basketball. There's been many examples with athletics, but we'll say piano, because I know Mr. Handel mentioned piano in a different part. But you have two different groups playing the piano. One group mentally rehearses playing the piano in their mind, in their imagination, while the other group is legitimately playing the piano, right, with their fingers, with their hands. They're engaged in the activity physically of playing the piano, while the other students are just mentally rehearsing it. And they both got the exact same results in their progress. And that shows that the mind, in what we're imaging and imagining, the brain does not know the difference between what we imagine to be true and what we actually experience to be true externally. Remember, the brain doesn't know the difference because it's purely electrical signals. Now, it does go very deep. It goes very deep. But just as your brain will create neural pathways to match the physical actions you're taking, your brain will create those same neural pathways in connection with the mental images you are harboring. And this is what this teaches. It's conscientiously through the use of mind and imagination in the intangible force of nature, we're creating the brain to be what we want it to be. And then that'll in turn be expressed through the structure of the brain and our behavior. It's amazing. Like, it's just, what an amazing idea and concept. And not just concept, but reality. This is scientifically proven to be true. It's like he says, right? We grow into it, right? We have to continuously repeat that mental image, because it's not about what we think every once in a while, right? It's what we think about habitually most of the time. And we have to create the mental image of what it is that we want, and we have to think about it earnestly with feeling and desire most of the time. And we can do that by sitting in the silence, creating the mental picture, and really focusing our mind with the power of will. Remember how he explained the power of will prior. Will is the ability to hold the mental image of what we want in the forefront of our mind. And by holding it there with the will, your brain cells will be able to respond better, right? It's time under tension. It's adaptation under stress. Your brain is adapting under the stress of the new mental image by reconstructing itself to meet the required demands. Wow. Yeah, that's exactly what's happening. Remember, it's the exact same thing when you're exercising. When you're exercising your muscle, you're intentionally putting your muscles through resistance. And through that resistance, your muscles are going to grow back stronger. Right? It's dependent upon the tension under it's time under tension and its ability to adapt under stress. That is exactly what your brain is doing when you're holding the mental picture in mind. So remember, at the very beginning of the program, he has us clearly see how many thoughts that we're thinking that we're not entirely conscious of, right? Thoughts that are just being thought, because they're subconscious. And the whole purpose of the beginning portions of the program is to weed those thoughts out, to weed out the thoughts you don't want. So you could till the soil of the mind, and you could plant the thoughts that you want, the seeds of which you wish to desire to manifest, because you're legitimately changing your mind conscientiously. But of course, it all leads back to, hey, you have to be conscious of it and its existence in the first place, which is exactly what this program does. It gives us the information why it's like that. Character is not a thing of chance, but it is the result of continued effort. If you are timid, vacillating, self-conscious, or if you are over-anxious or harassed by thoughts of fear or impending danger, remember that it is axiomatic that, quote, two things cannot exist in the same place at the same time, end quote. Axiomatic, it's not possible, right? It's not possible to have a positive attitude if you're thinking negative thoughts. There's only space and a place for one, which is where these affirmations come into play that it gives us. Remember the affirmations, let's say is it actually in this chapter? It is in this chapter. I was just going to say this affirmation. The I am whole, perfect, strong, powerful, loving, harmonious, and happy. We'll save that for when we get to that part, because that just came to mind. Or the affirmation that I can be what I will to be, that he mentioned in a previous chapter. Or it's an affirmation. It's there to induce a train of thought, a line of thought, an habitual way of thinking. Exactly the same thing is true in the mental and spiritual world, so that your remedy is plainly to substitute thoughts of courage, power, self-reliance, and confidence for those of fear, lack, and limitation. The easiest and most natural way to do this is to select an affirmation which seems to fit your particular case. The positive thought will destroy the negative as certainly as light destroys darkness, and the result will be just as effectual. Act is the blossom of thought, and conditions are the result of action, so that you constantly have in your possession the tools by which you will certainly and inevitably make or unmake yourself. Enjoy or suffering will be the reward. And he just ended that introduction with what I opened this entire video with. It's conscientiously creating our own mental patterns, our own behavioral patterns, through the simple act of visualization, of consciousness itself. Going within, going in the silence, creating the mental pictures, creating the thoughts, seeing ourselves with the results that we desire to have. It's so simple, like it's that simple, but yet it's so complex. I think what makes it complex is how simple it actually is. Because as he opened this entire program from the beginning, we were taught to look for everything on the outside, which we wanted. When it came to certain results, we were taught to look externally for them, right? To work mainly with the external world. But with this program, he has us go directly within. He has us sit in the silence to learn about the mind itself and how we could consciously create the mindset we want. And as we talked about these laws already, the law of attraction, the law of, hey, we become what we think about, that the body expresses that which we are thinking about most of the time, that is just a part of our behavior. We just go within and create a behavior. And that behavior in turn is what's going to influence the external world to get the results we need. That's what this program is. And that's what I've been experiencing. That's what I shared in the comment on week 8. The part we did last week, because I feel different. Like I feel different. So let's get started. Now we're in part 9. That's the end of the introduction, part 9. There are only 3 things which can possibly be desired in the world without, and each of them can be found in the world within. The secret of finding them is simply to apply the proper mechanism, which we talked about, the brain of attachment, to the omnipotent power to which each individual has access. And as he said before, thinking is the power which gives us access to creating through behaviors, because we know we're in connection with the infinite mind, right? We're made in the image and likeness of this infinite, omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent, and immortal power, which we know as God. And we know that power exists within us, that all things exist within itself. Remember, as Christ told us, everything is one. and we must love the Father. We must love the one and everything that is a part of the one. He says, love the Lord your God with all your mind and all your heart, and love your neighbor as yourself, right? Those were the two highest commandments he had given us. Because we're attached to this power. Like he said, the Father and I are one. All that I do, you see, all that I do what the Father do. I do what I see the Father do. Right? Because he's attached to the omnipotent power. And we know, since thought and thinking is the very process which pulls something that exists as an infinite potential to a legitimate desired result. Thought is the force which allows something that it pulls it from its potential form into a legitimate solidified form. And the potential form, oh man, it's going to be interesting to explain. Because I want to go back to the foundations of matter itself, which is the atom, in the subatomic particles of which the atoms are made of. Because we know we're made out of these atoms, and those atoms are made of the proton, neutron, and the electron. And then those protons and neutrons are made up of quarks, and then it goes deeper than that. But then the electron exists, right? These quarks exist inside the nucleus of the atom, which would constitute the body of the atom. Well, the electron exists outside the nucleus of the atom and pops in and out of existence, revolves around the nucleus of the atom through the electron cloud. But yet the electron cloud is still considered the body of the atom too. And it was at 99.96, I believe it's 96, it's either 96 or 94% of the atom is empty space. It's the electron cloud. While the 0.01 or 0.04 or 0.06% of the atom consists of something solid, which is what the quarks are, right? So the entirety of the atom is empty space. So we know that the entirety of what matter is in general is empty space, which in turn means the entirety of who we are, the majority of who we are as beings, as conscious beings, is empty space. And we know that we have an aura. We know that we're electromagnetic in nature. We know that thoughts and emotions are a subtle vibratory energy existing inside the body. That it's not the body itself, it's just connected to the body. And the body is just a covering, right? It's just a physical manifestation of this higher reality. But I brought that point, there was a reason I brought all that up to begin with. Potentialities, potential. When it comes to the double slit experiment, right, it has been shown that the electron exists as both a wave and a particle simultaneously, which means the electron exists as a pure potential energy. It's traveling this infinite mind, this infinite reality, which we know as a quantum field today, traveling the quantum field in a form of potential vibratory energy. It's just an energy, it's in vibration. But when there's a mind that perceives something to exist, that electron will turn from its potential state into a solidified state, revolving around an atom, right? Like that's quantum physics. That's just what happens on the subatomic realm. And we know, taking that idea, that understanding, like, hey, this is what electrons are doing at all times. When it comes to, right, let's say versions of Wayne, right? This was actually me and a buddy of mine were talking about. Like, there are an infinite amount of Waynes, an infinite amount of how I can express myself as an individual. But we know that, we think about, our power to think is what attached, because we know thought exists in its infinity, it's in its entirety in the infinite mind. Every thought that has ever been thought is already in the infinite mind. It's already floating around in the atmosphere. There's actually a quote by Edison. How exactly did it go? About him receiving the thought, right? He just received the thought. He didn't make it up himself. He received a thought that was already in existence. I believe it was Edison that said that. I'll have to find that. I'll have to find what it was and who it was. But when it comes to our mental images, right? Because consciousness can embody just about anything, right? Men can believe they're women, right? Women can believe they can be a man, right? It's because of consciousness. It's because consciousness is separate yet connected to the body, because consciousness is something more. The mind is something more. But we have to make sure, remember, to be really fully in depth in reality, we have to be connected with the natural physical manifestation of the world as well. But aside from that, going back to the existence of thought in its pure potential form, existing in the infinite mind, when we think of thought, we are literally attaching our mechanism, so to speak, our brain, our mind, to pulling that reality from its potential form and funneling it into a solidified behavioral pattern of behavior form. We're giving form to the thought by extracting it from its pure potential form and ingraining it into our behavior, right? It's becoming a part of our mechanism. It's becoming a part of our attachment. We're attaching our brain to that potential, that existence, that potential reality. And as he says right here, by the law of growth and through the power of the will, as we hold that idea, as we hold that thought in mind, that idea will take hold and root itself in our brain, our mind itself, and it'll become a behavior pattern. We'll become it, and we'll express it. That's why they say you'll find it in New Thought when you study more of it with me, right? And Abel Allen talks about man is illimitable. There are no limits to a man's progress and what a man can become. There are absolutely no limits. And when I say man, I'm talking about mankind. This includes women too. There are no limits to what we can do, to who we can be as a species, because we have a brain that's capable of expressing anything. Remember, as he says right here, it's dependent upon the mechanism of attachment. Phenomenal. Okay, where were we? We're already almost 50 minutes in. We just gone through paragraph 1 in part 1. There's a lot to share. There's a lot to talk about. There's a lot that we could attach to this to make it better understandable. Remember, these videos are more so lectures, right? It's not for the faint of heart going through this. It's for you who's legitimately serious about changing your life and doing what you need to do to make that change occur. Because it starts with information. It starts with a certain genre of knowledge. The three things, here we are. The three things which all mankind desires and which are necessary for his highest expression and complete development are health, wealth, and love. All will admit that health is absolutely essential. No one can be happy if the physical body is in pain. All will not so readily admit that wealth is necessary, but all must admit that a sufficient supply at least is necessary. And what would be considered sufficient for one would be considered absolute and painful lack for another. And as nature provides not only enough, but abundantly, wastefully, lavishly, we realize that any lack or limitation is only the limitation which has been made by an artificial method of distribution. And that is a very powerful point right there, too, because we know nature is abundant, and we know when it comes to this inequality of the distribution of wealth we have today. We know a lot of that is due to the presence of a Federal Reserve System. And we know a lot of that is due to the fact that we have a central banking system, which is what I just said, just another way of saying it. And the fact that America is not using their own money, right? We're using the Federal Reserve's money. We're using a banker's money. We're using a business's money as our money supply. And obviously there's a lack of distribution because we pay taxes on something that was created out of nothing. And the rewards go mainly to the ones that are in ownership of the business as compared to those that are actually working it. Now, it used to not be an issue. It became an issue when the establishment of the Federal Reserve occurred, because that's what caused inflation, right? That's what caused money to lose its power over time. I had a mentor back in the day. He said in the past, only the man had to work his 8 hours a day, and he'd be making more than enough, beyond enough to support his wife, his family. He could have a family of 5, right? They would invest, like much of their investments were in family and the seeds that they left behind with the new generation, right? That was their main investments. It's not like that today, right? Back in the day, all it took was the man able to work. He had more than enough for his entire family. He had more than enough for a car, a vehicle, horse, whatever. He had more than enough for land. And he had enough left over to invest in whatever he wanted to build himself, right? That's how it was in the past. Because money we didn't have a Federal Reserve. We didn't have a central banking system established in the past like we have today. Let alone when America was first established, there were no taxes at all, right? Taxes came about when the Federal Reserve came about, because the government had to pay the bankers back somehow, right? Through the people, through the backs of the people, through the taxes, right? Things have changed a lot today. It's not like that today, right? You could have a man or a woman working full-time, overtime, and they're still making, unless they don't really do anything, right? Like you have to, in a way, like you have to be a part of a trade. You have to be in higher positions. Like you have to. You cannot make it on lower positions. In this world, the way things are right now, you cannot make it by being in a lower position. You have to be in a higher position. You have to be doing something of substance. You have to be a person of substance and provide a very high quality of something to live comfortably like we used to live in the past. It's just like that today. But he says the artificial method of distribution, right? And real quick, since we're talking about all this, I gotta add this in there. Andrew Carnegie, one of the wealthiest men that existed in his time, he became wealthy in a business he essentially knew nothing about. But what he did know is people. He knew the mastermind principle. But in the book, I have the book. I did share it on my old coaching channel. It's called The Gospel of Wealth. But he talks about, where is it? What did I do with it? He talks about distribution of wealth, that the wealth gap can be fixed by changing how wealth is distributed. I don't know where the book is. It was around. I know I have it here with me somewhere. I'll find it. let's continue so I don't keep digressing. All will probably admit that love is the third, or maybe some will say the first essential necessary to the happiness of mankind. At any rate, those who possess all three, health, wealth, and love, find nothing else which can be added to their cup of happiness. We have found that the universal substance is all health, all substance, and all love, and that the mechanism of attachment whereby we can consciously connect with this infinite supply is in our method of thinking. I was just explaining this earlier, at least doing the best that I could to explain it, right? Pulling the infinite possibility, right? He says right here, all health, all substance, and all love already exists inside this universal substance. The only thing is attaching the mechanism to this infinite supply to manifest health, abundance, love in our lives. And that method of attachment is in our way of thinking ourselves. To think correctly is therefore to enter into the secret place of the Most High. Now what shall we think? If we know this, we shall have found the proper mechanism of attachment which will relate us to, quote, whatsoever things we desire, end quote. This mechanism may seem very simple when I give it to you, but read on. You will find that it is, in reality, the master key, the Aladdin's lamp, if you please. You will find that it is the foundation, the imperative condition, the absolute law of well-doing, which means well-being. So what Hanel is telling us right here, there is a way of thinking that is the golden line of thought, so to speak, which will manifest all of these things in our lives. Now we know Christ already gave us this golden line. Christ already gave us this golden line of thinking, which is the ideal of Christ itself. Remember how Apostle Paul tells us that Christ is the image of God in man, that Christ is the fullness of the Godhead bodily, right? It is the expression of the qualities and characteristics of God in human form, because remember Christ told us we can do all that he did if we but understand. And this is what this is giving us. This is opening the way for us to understand Christ on that basis through modern science and what we know to be true today. So he's saying there's a golden line of thought which will unlock all these things for us. And he's saying it's the master key, right? The Aladdin's lamp, so to speak, to bring us anything that we want in our lives. He says to think correctly, accurately, we must know the truth. The truth, then, is the underlying principle in every business or social relation. It is a condition precedent to every right action. To know the truth, to be sure, to be confident, affords a satisfaction besides which no other is at all comparable. It is the only solid ground in a world of doubt, conflict, and danger. To know the truth is to be in harmony with the infinite and omnipotent power. Right, like we were told, we shall know the truth, and the truth shall make us free. Free from every lack, free from every limitation which exists. Because if we have the golden... Excuse my voice. I've been overcoming this thing has been trying to get me for a while, all week, and it's interfering with my voice. Because I'm a little bit stuffed, but I'm good. Still hasn't got me, and it's not going to get me. Back to what we were saying. Right, the golden line of thought is the truth. The golden line of thought is the ultimate truth of our reality, which has its basis in the infinite mind, in God, in the Father, as Christ told us. Because with the understanding of the Father and all that the Father is, all these other things, right, established, it's understanding the kingdom of heaven that exists within us. Once we understand this infinite kingdom inside of us already, all these other things will be added to us, right? It's scriptural. It came from Christ himself. As he's saying here, when we learn to think correctly, once we have that golden line of thought, all health, all wealth, all love will be bestowed upon us. Because we will create those things in our lives by first becoming that thing first. Or if we want health, we have to give health first. If we want wealth, we have to give wealth first. If we want love, we have to give love first. And all these things will come back to us, because we have to be something before we can have it. And that attraction works in accordance with who we are. To know the truth is to be in harmony with the infinite and omnipotent power. To know the truth is, therefore, to connect yourself with a power which is irresistible, and which will sweep away every kind of discord, inharmony, doubt, or error of any kind, because the, quote, truth is mighty and will prevail, end quote. The humblest intellect can readily foretell the result of any action when he knows that it is based on truth. But the mightiest intellect, the most profound and penetrating mind, loses its way hopelessly and can form no conception of the results which may ensue when his hopes are based on a premise which he knows to be false. Now, what he's saying here, this is a very important point to stress. He's saying you could have a person who is absolutely humble, very, very humble, has no need or no anything to really assert himself, but knows the law, right? The humblest intellect. What he is saying here, the humblest intellect can readily foretell the result of any action, right? Because he's developed his mind, he's developed his imagination to the point where he can see the end result, and he knows what actions to set in motion to bring that cause into effect, to experience the results of which he sees. But he's saying you could have somebody with the most profound and penetrating mind, who also has, let's say, great mental abilities, right? They have a very strong, powerful mind. But this mind can not be, in alignment with universal mind. It could, as he says right here, it could lose its way, right? Because his conceptions are based on premises that are known to be false. It's not based in truth. So you could have somebody who is absolutely extremely humble, but thinks along the lines of truth. And because of this, he gets the results, as compared to somebody who has a profound and penetrating mind. We could use a term with whatever's going on today. You could have your alpha male, so to speak. Now, nothing wrong with being an alpha male. I think being an alpha male is a fantastic thing. But you could have a beta male that gets better results than the alpha, right? Just their attitude and their mental attitude is different in the way they go about doing it, because the alpha will have a tendency to assert himself as the boss, right? He'll through strength, right? He'll gain his position through strength, the use of strength. Well, the beta can gain his position through the use of intelligence. All right, we need to have both. We need to have strength and we need to have intelligence. But we need to understand the main point that Mr. Hanel is giving us right here, that you could have somebody that's absolutely humble who gets the best results because his thought is in alignment with truth, as compared to somebody who's forceful, penetrative, that gets all the wrong results, all the results that aren't to the best of what they can be, because he's too forceful and they're not in alignment with truth, with the higher portion of reality. He says every action which is not in harmony with truth, whether through ignorance or design, will result in discord and eventual loss in proportion to its extent and character. How then are we to know the truth in order to attach this mechanism which will relate us to the infinite? We can make no mistake about this if we realize that truth is the vital principle of the universal mind and is omnipresent. So what he is saying here is that truth, and the thought of truth, is the very existence of life itself, right? He says it's the vital principle of the infinite mind and is omnipresent. This principle is everywhere. For instance, if you require health, a realization of the fact that the I in you, remember the I, it's not the E-A-Y-E-I, he's talking about the I, right? The identity of consciousness itself. Is the I in you is spiritual, and that all spirit is one, that wherever a part is, the whole must be, will bring about a condition of health, because every cell in the body must manifest the truth as you see it. If you see sickness, they will manifest sickness. If you see perfection, they must manifest perfection. The affirmation, quote, I am whole, perfect, strong, powerful, loving, harmonious, and happy, end quote, will bring about harmonious conditions. The reason for this is because the affirmation is in strict accordance with the truth. And when truth appears, every form of error or discord must necessarily disappear. So what he is telling us here is that, as we stated prior, everything that exists or ever can exist already exists in its potential form in the infinite mind, whether it's infinite health, whether it's wealth, whether it's health, whether it's love. These potentialities already exist in the universal mind. And he's saying to realize, and since let's back up a little bit. He says these potentialities already exist, and they exist everywhere, right? They're everywhere present. They're all around us. They're also within us. What he is also saying, for us to realize the realities of these potential existence, so to speak, in our lives and manifest it in form, it's dependent upon attaching our thought process. It's attaching our individual I to that reality. This is very, very phenomenal information and very, very different information indeed. Because you're attaching your own personal spark of awareness, your own personal I, to that. Because you're one with the infinite mind. And you're pulling that out of that. You're pulling that potential, that reality out of the infinite and manifesting it in form. And he's saying this affirmation he gave us, I am whole, perfect, strong, powerful, loving, harmonious, and happy, is everything that God is, right? What he's saying, he says, this affirmation will bring about harmonious conditions. He's saying it will do this because the affirmation is in strict accordance with the truth. And when truth appears, every form of error or discord must necessarily disappear. So he's saying wholeness, perfection, strength, power, love, harmony, and happiness are all characteristics of the infinite mind, which is found in truth. And when we manifest these characters, these qualities, it will manifest in our character and we will reap it in our lives. Wow. We will reap these qualities within our own lives. What if, wow, thought. Oh, hold on. We need to back up. I'm almost skipping one. You have found that the I is spiritual. It must necessarily then always be no less than perfect. The affirmation, I am whole, perfect, strong, powerful, loving, harmonious, and happy, is therefore an exact scientific statement. Thought is a spiritual activity, and spirit is creative. Therefore, the result of holding this thought in mind must necessarily bring about conditions in harmony with the thought. And remember why it must happen that way, because it literally becomes built within our we'll call it our neural mechanism, right? Our brain. Our brain will legitimately respond and create those neural pathways within it to express that thought or idea. If you require health, well, health too. If you require wealth, a realization of the fact that the I in you is one with the universal mind, which is all substance and is omnipotent, will assist you in bringing into operation the law of attraction, which will bring you into vibration with those forces which make for success and bring about conditions of power and affluence in direct proportion with the character and purpose of your affirmation. So he's saying these affirmations are also built. We know we've already covered what we're here to do, but he's talking about spiritually, what it does on a spiritual level. It brings you into vibration with those things that are in material form by the great law of attraction. Remember, attraction is explained on a vibratory level. It's explained on many levels, but its pure spiritual level is its energy, right? It's vibration. We enter into that state of vibration, and by the law of attraction, we then just attract the things to us that are in alignment with what we are vibrating. What a trip. Life, as much as we still don't understand about life as a species as a whole, life is a trip. Visualization is the mechanism of the attachment which you require. Now remember how he gave us visualization 2 parts back, right? Visualization is the tool which will allow you to attach your brain to the very thing that you need, which will attach your mechanism to the infinite mind. Visualization is a very different process from seeing. Seeing is physical and is therefore related to the objective world, the world without. But visualization is a product of the imagination and is therefore a product of the subject. A product of the subjective mind, the world within. It therefore possesses vitality. It will grow. The thing visualized will manifest itself in form. The mechanism is perfect. It was created by the master architect who, quote, doeth all things well, end quote. But unfortunately, sometimes the operator is inexperienced or inefficient. But practice and determination will overcome this defect. Now, I know it's said in the Book of Life, too, about having the vision. What do they say? A man without vision will perish. And what do we know faith is? Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. It is the ability to believe in the existence of that which you are visualizing, thinking about. Because visualizing, as he says right here, being a product of the imagination, and being, right, being a power which was given to us by the infinite architect, right? He says it was created by the master architect who doeth all things well. So God has given you the ability to visualize, for you to be able to create the life which you desire to create, because he wishes to express. How is it said? God created man so he can express himself as a God in form, or we're created in God's image. And Jesus, the Christ, which gave us Christ, was a perfect representation of the God powers which we all have within us. Right? God brought us all into existence as a species, as a whole, to express himself and his characteristics in a legitimate created form. Right? We're not animals, right? We live as men, but we're not animals, right? We're conscious. We're conscious spiritual beings. And it is consciousness which separates us from everything else. If you require love, try to realize that the only way to get love is by giving it. The more you give, the more you will get. And the only way in which you can give it is to fill yourself with it until you become a magnet. The method was explained in another lesson. Simply visualize yourself as giving love and feeling that you're receiving it in return, right? It's as simple as that. The simple act of visualizing in the silence is what sets the cause in motion. Remember, you have to do it persistently. You can't just do it once and expect the results, right? You have to do it over time, continuously over time. You know that when it comes to fitness, it's the consistency that matters most, instead of just the volume of what you do in one session, right? Same thing with visualizing, right? It's not about thinking about it every once in a while, but legitimately making time every day to sit in the silence and visualize yourself doing and being the things you want to do and to be. It's consistency, because you have to build those neurons. Remember, it's creating the neurons. It's your brain adapting under the stress of you holding on to that image. He who has learned to bring the greatest spiritual truths into touch with the so-called lesser things of life has discovered the secret of the solution of his problem. One is always quickened, made more thoughtful by his nearness of approach to great ideas, great events, great natural objects, and great men. Lincoln is said to have begotten in all who came near him the feeling awakened when one approaches a mountain, and this sense asserts itself most keenly when one comes to realize that he has laid hold upon things that are eternal, the power of truth. It is sometimes an inspiration to hear from someone who has actually put these principles to the test, someone who has demonstrated them in their own life. A letter from Frederick Andrews offers the following insight. Now this is from Mr. Andrews. Okay, so I quote, Mr. Andrews says, I was about 13 years old when Dr. T.W. Marcy, since passed over, said to my mother, quote, now this is Dr. W.T. Marcy. The doctor says, there is no possible chance, Mrs. Andrews. I lost my little boy the same way, after doing everything for him that it was possible to do. I have made a special study of these cases, and I know there is no possible chance for him to get well." End quote. She turned to him and said, now this is Andrew's mom, turning to the doctor and responding. Now she says, quote, "Doctor, what would you do if he were your boy?" End quote. And he answered, so this is the doctor then responding to Mrs. Andrews. He says, quote, "I would fight as long as there is a breath of life to fight for." End quote. Now, that is the end of their conversation, going back to what Mr. Andrews says. He says that was the beginning of a long drawn-out battle with many ups and downs, the doctors all agreeing that there was no chance for a cure, though they encouraged and cheered us the best they could. But at last the victory came, and I have grown from a little crooked, twisted cripple, going about on my hands and knees, to a strong, straight, well-formed man. Now, I know you want the formula, and I will give it to you as briefly and quickly as I can. I built up an affirmation for myself, taking the qualities I most needed and affirming for myself over and over again. Quote, "I am whole, perfect, strong, powerful, loving, harmonious, and happy." End quote. I kept up this affirmation, always the same, never varying, till I could wake up in the night and find myself repeating, "I am whole, perfect, strong, powerful, loving, harmonious, and happy." It was the last thing on my lips at night and the first thing in the morning. So, Mr. Andrews, this man, Frederick Andrews, his middle name's Elias. We'll go over that in a little bit. He dealt with a situation, so to speak, when it came to his health growing up, and the doctors told him that there was no chance for him to be healed. The doctor even told the mom that, "Hey, I lost my daughter the same way." Or I'm sorry, was a daughter? Little boy. "I lost my little boy the same way." So the doctor lost his child due to the same condition that Mr. Andrews was dealing with. And they're saying it's no possible chance for a cure. But they didn't give up on him, right? They told the mom, "Hey, fight. What other choice is there anyway? Are you just going to give up and lay over? No, you fight. You have to fight." And so he did. And what he did, Mr. Andrews built up this affirmation, right? So this affirmation Mr. Hannels gave us, which is in alignment with the truth, the golden thought that exists in the infinite, for us to pull it out and manifest through us, right, is the same affirmation Mr. Andrews used. And from what it looks like, Mr. Andrews was actually the one who created it. And the affirmation, of course, is, "I am whole, perfect, strong, powerful, loving, harmonious, and happy." So what is Mr. Andrews saying? He says, it was the last thing on my lips at night and the first thing in the morning. So what is he doing? Right? What is he doing with this affirmation? He is bringing it into his habitual mental attitude. He's getting it into his subconscious mind. He's changing this thing, the pattern of this, and molding it into a new pattern so he could change what he is expressing. And he's saying not only did he affirm it for himself, but for others. Okay, back to what Mr. Andrews is saying. Not only did I affirm it for myself, but for others that I knew needed it. I want to emphasize this point. Whatever you desire for yourself, affirm it for others, and it will help you both. We reap what we sow. If we send thoughts of love and health, they return to us like bread cast upon the waters. But if we send out thoughts of fear, worry, jealousy, anger, oh, anger. You don't want to send out thoughts of anger. That's jealousy, anger, hate, etc. Mr. Wayne is getting hungry. That's probably what's happening right now. I'm subconsciously thinking about, hey, I need to eat soon, because it has almost been an hour and a half. You're gonna find me hangry at the end of this video. Dang. Okay. Let's back up a little bit. Okay. It used to be said that man is completely built over every 7 years. But some scientists now declare that we build ourselves over entirely every 11 months. So we are really only 11 months old. If we build the defects back into our bodies year after year, we have no one to blame but ourselves. Man is the sum total of his own thoughts. So the question is, how are we going to entertain only the good thoughts and reject the evil ones? At first, we can't keep the evil thoughts from coming, but we can keep from entertaining them. The only way to do this is to forget them, which means get something for them. This is where the ready-made affirmation comes into play. And that leads back to when Mr. Hanel opened up this entire program with, right? It's axiomatic that one thought cannot exist at the same time as another thought, right? The positive cannot exist at the same time the negative is existing. And what Mr. Andrews is saying, right? We can't always just keep the evil ones from coming, but we can keep from entertaining them. And through the process of keeping ourselves from thinking about them, hey, we can get something for that, right? We could get something for that. And he's saying that's where the ready-made affirmation comes into play, right? That's when you start your affirmation, because remember, what is the affirmation? What is the affirmation for to begin with, right? It's to train our train of thought. It's to train our line of thought. It's to help train the way we think, right? So the power isn't necessarily, remember, the power isn't in the affirmation itself, right? It's in the meaning behind the affirmation. It's what it means, right? Because it's in our thinking. Right? The affirmation, the power behind the affirmation is to get us to think about something, right? But the power we know is in the thought by itself. So when a thought of anger, jealousy, fear, or worry creeps in, just start your affirmation going. The way to fight darkness is with light. The way to fight cold is with heat. The way to overcome evils is with good. For myself, I never could help. I never could find any help in denials. Affirm the good and the bad will vanish. Now that is the end of Frederick Andrews, and it is signed Frederick Elias Andrews. So Mr. Andrews overcame a sickness which the doctor said was impossible to be cured from through the use of affirmation. And now, mind you, when I said the power is not in the affirmation itself, the power is in the thinking, right? There is power in the affirmation due to the fact that it's getting you to think about something, right? It's helping your process of thought. Man, you're doing so well, Mr. Wayne, up until then. Oh, it's all good. It's all good. If there is anything you require, it will be well for you to make use of this affirmation. It cannot be improved upon. Use it just as it is. Take it into the silence with you until it sinks into your subconsciousness, so that you can use it anywhere, in your car, in the office, at home. This is the advantage of spiritual methods. They are always available. Spirit is omnipresent, every ready. I believe it's supposed to say everywhere ready. All that is required is a proper recognition of its omnipotence and a willingness or desire to become the recipient of its beneficent effects. If our predominant mental attitude is one of power, courage, kindliness, and sympathy, we shall find that our environment will reject conditions in correspondence with these thoughts. If it is weak, critical, envious, and destructive, we shall find our environment reflecting conditions corresponding to these thoughts. And as we're talking about, when you find yourself thinking negative, right, have your affirmation ready. Remember, the affirmation is to help train your thought to overcome negative thoughts, to engage yourself in positive, constructive thinking. Because we get what we think about, we become what we think about. And as we are told with the law of attraction, that even thought is a form of vibration, right? It's a vibratory force which goes out and meets with matter, material, that is vibrating at that same frequency, that similar frequency. And by the great law of attraction, and however the universe does what it does to move things in synchronicity, to move things in unity, you just find yourself surrounded by what you were just thinking about. It's amazing. Now this week, hold on, I don't want to move too, I almost skipped a whole thing. So he says, thoughts are causes and conditions are effects. Herein is the explanation of the origin of both good and evil. Thought is creative and will automatically correlate with its object. This is a cosmological law, a universal law, the law of attraction, the law of cause and effect. The recognition and application of this law will determine both beginning and end. It is the law by which in all ages and in all times the people were led to believe in the power of prayer. Quote, as thy faith is, so be it unto thee, end quote, is simply another, shorter, and a better way of stating it. So what he's saying right there, the very power that exists behind prayer itself is the law of attraction. It's vibration, it's energy. As we've been talking with visualizing, right? How he says over here, and how we talked about the very art of visualization came from the master architect itself. Excuse the background noise, that's my nephew. The dude's already 5, can you believe that? But visualizing, okay, the man without vision shall perish. We have to know and see what it is that we want. Even when you're praying, right? What's happening when you're praying? You're thinking about the end result which you wish to see manifested. And you're asking the infinite mind to bring it about for you. So this week, visualize a plant. Take a flower, the one you most admire. Bring it from the unseen into the seen. Hey, we're going to use Peace Lily this week. Plant the tiny seed. Water it. Care for it. Place it where it will get the direct rays of the morning sun. See the seed burst. It is now a living thing. Something which is alive and beginning to search for the means of subsistence. Now, subsistence. Oh man, I had looked that up before. What is it? It's something like material, searching for the means of material. Here, let's find out for sure. Subsistence. The state or fact of existing. The providing of sustenance or support, means of supporting life or living, a living or livelihood, the source from which food and other items necessary to exist are obtained. So yeah, you could say it's a part of material, right? Because it's searching for that which it needs for its growth, for its existence. See the roots penetrating the earth. Watch them shoot out in all directions, and remember that they are living cells dividing and subdividing, and that they will soon number millions. That each cell is intelligent, that it knows what it wants and knows how to get it. See the stem shoot forward and upward. Watch it burst through the surface of the earth. See it divide and form branches. See how perfect and symmetrical each branch is formed. See the leaves begin to form, and then the tiny stems, each one holding a loft of bud. And as you watch, you see the bud begin to unfold, and your favorite flower comes to view. And now, if you will concentrate intently, you will become conscious of a fragrance. It is the fragrance of the flower as the breeze gently sways the beautiful creation which you have visualized. So what are you saying for us this week? We're going to take this plant. We're going to take it first from its seed form. We're going to legitimately plant it in the soil. Remember, we're doing all this mentally. We're seeing the process of a plant going from just a seed into bursting into actual legitimate life. We're going to see this seed bursting through this plant, bursting through the seed. We're going to see it extending its roots to gather the material in the soil, the nutrients that are in the soil for its proper growth. We're going to see it shoot and bud, grow whatever plants or grow whatever flowers, whatever that plant is that you want, right? See it bloom, see it reaching for the sunlight, see it gathering the material it's needed, see it at its cellular level, dividing and subdividing into smaller cells to become a bigger plant, right? To grow, because we know that plant is made out of cells, and those cells in turn are made of, molecules. Those molecules are made of chemicals. Those chemicals are made out of atoms. Those atoms are made out of subatomic particles. And those subatomic particles in turn are made of pure consciousness, pure energy, right? It just as I just said, everything comes from the same thing. Right, when you are enabled to make your vision clear and complete, you will be enabled to enter into the spirit of a thing. It will become very real to you. You will be learning to concentrate, and the process is the same, whether you are concentrating on health, a favorite flower, an ideal, a complicated business proposition, or any other problem of life. Every success has been accomplished by persistent concentration upon the object in view. Now we're going to end that with a quote, and I quote, "Thought means life, since those who do not think do not live in any high or real sense. Thinking makes the man." End quote. Now that is by a man named A.B. Elcott. So we have our practice for this week. Okay, we're going to be visualizing our plant. Now, I'm not the one who planted Peace Lily. I bought her when she was just a wee little baby, probably half the size she is now. But we are going to use Peace Lily. We're going to see her from being in a planted seed, or just in seed form, being planted in. We're going to bring it from where it started to the phase of what it went through to its end result. And we're going to see this plant in its end result. Bigger pot. I definitely got to get a bigger pot for her. And, we're also going to keep visualizing. Now, what was very important when he says entering to the spirit of a thing, right? Our concentration needs to be so good that it feels like we're actually living the experience in our imagination mentally. Right? This is the process. This is the power. This is what's needed. Once you could really live the spirit of the thing, when it feels very real to you mentally, then these laws will work 100% very quickly for you and in favor for you and for your benefit. And you'll be amazed on how quickly the thing you want to have manifested will manifest. I like the progress that I've made with Walmart so far. It's just been visualizing myself doing what I know I need to do. And it's been happening in ways to where I did not see it coming. I did not see it happening the way it's been happening, but it's been happening. Like Mr. Handel says, leave the results to the infinite mind. Your job is to hold the end result in mind. And the ways and means of getting there will be made plain to you. Will be made plain to you. With that being said, I'm going to end it right here. If you made it to the end of this video with me, thank you for watching. We have our exercise for the week. We will see you next week for part 10. All right.